Hi everyone, I'm here talking about the accessibility of a PowerPoint and a Word document that I currently use in my first grade classroom. So the first up, I have a PowerPoint that I use in social studies for our wigwam or We2 construction. I actually formatted it with the PowerPoint generated template. So the slide layout is clear and the text changes as though it should with each appropriate heading. As I tabbed through my PowerPoint, it went through in reading order. As you can see, it started up at the heading and then moved down to my subpoints, and it followed the same format for each of the pages, and this was due to the fact that I did use the PowerPoint generated layouts. When I went into the outline view, which I did not realize existed, you can clearly see what each slide contains and what will follow. However, when you get to slide 4, 5, and 6, you will see that it is blank. And that's because on those slides, I actually have images of blueprints. And while the images are clear and of high contrast, I did not add alternative text. So that would definitely be one way to improve and make my PowerPoint more accessible, as well as provide multiple entry points into this topic. I do verbally discuss, and my students also add in what they notice about a blueprint, because this is something new to them that they haven't been exposed to. So we are verbally discussing it, but having it in a description in print form would just make it all that much more accessible for all my students. I did have some links in my PowerPoint. However, I use those links as a citation for the image versus an access point for a student. However, if I do want to make those links accessible, I would definitely need to make sure that the link has a meaningful name or title. For instance, this one could say blueprint description on Wikipedia, or just blueprint description. And then students would click on and have access to more meaningful information. Because I present this in a whole class setting, I don't typically have them going on to these direct links that the images were cited from. The color of my presentation is just white and black, and the reason for this, as Rice said in her text, you need to try different colors of backgrounds in your presentations to see what works best for your learners. Well, I currently have a learner in my classroom who needs to have items on a white background with a dark font. Now, it is okay if I have a dark blue, dark purple, dark green, but I just chose to have black to keep it simple and uniform throughout. While my presentation is accessible in the fact that I used the PowerPoint layout and format, I think to make it even more accessible, I would definitely need to have the alternative text for each of my images on my PowerPoint. The next item I'm going to be talking about is a Word document, and the Word document is on a tooth diagram lab that we completed. I did not use the word formatting for this particular worksheet, so my headings are not correct. My heading for the scientist text box and for the title text box, and then for my main idea question text box, all are the same. So it's all heading 1. They're all the same font, so I didn't differentiate in regards to that either. So if I want to make this more accessible, I should definitely implement the embedded headings and embedded format that Word has to offer. I also noted as I was clicking through and tabbing through the page, you can see it starts out great. It starts out with the name line, heads to the title, all makes sense in terms of the reader. Then it starts moving around in random orders as I'm tabbing it, which would not make sense for an automated recorder. If I wanted to make this more accessible, I would definitely have to replace or reorder them so that it's logical. And I also was wondering if it's possible to group items as you're tabbing through for a reader, because I think it would be beneficial to have the label box along with the arrow grouped together so that it makes it more meaningful for the students as they're labeling the different teeth. I have a link on here, but again, it's just for the citation for the image. However, if I did want to keep this for an online setting, I definitely could create that link and format it in a way that students would, one, know where they're headed to once they click on the link, and two, make it so that they can have more information about the teeth diagram. The second item that I noted was not having, again, not having alternate text for my image. While the image is clear because it's black versus white, so there's high contrast, it doesn't help the students who may not be able to see the image as clearly. If I head down to, this would be the back of the worksheet, I did actually follow the layout for this. So this is the heading number 1. I did bold the word directions so that it makes it stand out so they know what that this is information they need to read prior to filling out the tables. The tables, I also use the word formatting, so the headings are all appropriate. And if you were to tab through, like I just did right now, it follows a logical order. So it starts from left and heads all the way to the right. The headings are bold, which makes it clear. I did create 3 separate tables just because for first grade it's easier to follow rather than having large tables with them trying to line up all of the items, because, for instance, if they were chewing a piece of pretzel, they might not be using the incisor, molar, and canine. So they might not have an X here, and then they go down to the next one like a carrot, and then they might accidentally put the X up next to the pretzel. So that's the only reason why I have 3 separate tables, if you were wondering. I loved the quote from the text that said, "Meeting the needs of all learners can be a challenge in any environment. One benefit of the online environment in particular is that it is conducive to some forms of differentiation." I learned so much about how to use the formatting given to you from PowerPoint, Word, and even those other elements, because they have it set up to read properly through and just have the correct formatting. I had no idea of how much help that would be. One of the items that it had also talked about in the text was that preparation is the key to success. While I highly agree with that, one of the other items that I was thinking about is just the knowledge of the resources. I didn't know how important it was to have the formatting in a certain order. I didn't know that tabbing through a document, it wouldn't automatically go where I wanted it to go. So just having that extra knowledge is really beneficial and could aid me in the future as I am creating my documents. So thank you for listening, and I can't wait to see what you have come up with as well.